All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr, and we are recapping Saturday's action in SEC basketball. Before we do that, let's tell you about our friends at Bet Online. NFL playoffs, of course, have gotten started. Some places warmer than others. NBA season in full swing, and Bet Online, of course, has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores, with the additional odds, lines, trends, and info on the desktop, on the mobile. It's everywhere. You can access the world's best wagering information at any time. So just head there today, betonline.ag, to get in on the action, see all the updated odds. Remember, use that promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline is where the game starts. All right, before we get into the action real quickly, Max, I'm just going to give everyone a little bit of a note here. Yours truly has had some internet issues all morning. We're a little late getting to this, and so if you see some problems on the video, we're just giving you a heads up on the start. But my goodness, Max Barr, we're going to get to this reaction video no matter what it takes. Even if we have to broadcast this through Morse code, we're going to recap these games on Saturday. So you see Max got a smile on his face. We'll talk about why here in just a few minutes. He's excited about one game in particular. He can't wait to get to this game. But first, we're going to talk about this first one. I mean, trust me, we all know which one it is, Max. Tennessee 85, Georgia 79. I always give a hint about like what goes on in the group chats with Max and Chris. And you want to talk about a lot of interesting opinions on this game, and how they changed very quickly in terms of how this thing played out. Because, man, you talk about a game where, look, it felt like this was one where I was not liking Tennessee chances there. Like, I just wasn't, Max. Like, I was watching how this game's playing out. And I'm like, this is tough, man. I think Georgia's just got their number today. But you know what happened? I mean, it was just sort of Tennessee turning it up a notch. And the difference was what? It's what we said the difference could be with Tennessee this season. That is having a guy like Dalton Knecht. I mean, he goes for 36 here. We talked about kind of the turnovers and those kind of things. Ziegler didn't have his best game from a turnover standpoint. Still gave him 18 points, played 38 minutes, which was the highest for anybody on either team. But it's just like Dalton Knecht, man. He is, for everybody, going into the season, it's like, how's this Tennessee team going to be different? When we got a guy that can do this and just kind of, add up the points that he had. You may have the stat, but when you just look at what he did in the final, 10 minutes or so of that game, I don't know how many points he scored during that stretch, made some layups, made a lot of free throws towards the end, but man, he scored in bunches, and that's exactly what Tennessee needed, and that's something that Tennessee's really struggled to do in recent years.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Blake, in previous years, past 2 years, Tennessee doesn't win this game with the way that they came out. That's the difference in this team this year. You got to give credit to Georgia, though. This team is good. This team is rock solid. I love the three ball handlers, how they always have multiple ball handlers between Thomason, Justin Hill, and Silas Demery. You're almost always going to have two like true comfortable ball handlers on the court, which is a huge plus. And then Jabri Abdur-Rahim is just, I've been calling Zion Pullen Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collected. This guy is right up there too. I mean, he's just so smooth. He just never rushed. He's got a great shot fake. So, I mean, this team is dangerous offensively. I think you saw that, especially in this game. I mean, they were just, especially Demery was playing lights out. That dunk was insane. Mike White said this is the loudest he's ever heard Stegman since he's been there. So the crowd the atmosphere was great. There's some buzz around Georgia basketball for sure. You can definitely feel it. Jalen Deloach went down with a little bit of a hand injury. That's a little bit concerning. Status unknown right now. He added some good offensive rebounds for them. Mike White said Ziegler just blew up our offense down the stretch. He said I think there was a sideline out of bounds. He just blew up the whole play himself. Denied the ball like 3 straight times. So I texted the group chat, Blake, at halftime. I go, Ziegler had 6 turnovers at halftime. Guess how many he ended up with? 6. Yep. So I mean, that's the concern here, though, right? With Tennessee is they still have not put together a full 40 minutes. It's been coming out a little bit slow out of the gates in the first half and having to claw your way back. Thanks to Dalton Knecht, you do that. Do you know Dalton Knecht's numbers on the road? Because they are absurd. Dalton Knecht away from home so far, he's averaging 31.3 points per game, shooting 48% from three in their road games this year. I mean, you needed shooting and offense, and that's what you got here with Knecht. So, I mean, if there was a way, I say this often, I feel like I keep saying this, but if there's a way for both teams to win, I mean, Georgia just looked phenomenal, except down the stretch there. Knecht just, sometimes good offense beats good defense. Next up for Georgia, Blake, 2 straight road games. It's tough. Yeah. So I don't know. I like both teams moving forward. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's schedule, like you said, 2 straight road games at South Carolina, at Kentucky. But even, you go a little further, like they're at Florida too after that LSU home game. So yeah, I wonder if we look back on this one for Georgia and we're just like, that was kind of the win they needed to really boost their resume. Because as we said, to this point, they just don't have a lot on there, even for a team that, had won that many games in a row, is 12-4 and all that. So yeah, not ideal probably for the Bulldogs not being able to win this one when it felt like they had all the momentum. And, you look elsewhere, Jonas Adu, another quality game here for him, 10 points, 15 rebounds, 5 blocks. He's just continued to get better. I think that's pretty clear. And so, huge for Tennessee. I mean, momentum-wise, you think about, mindset and everything. If you lose your first 2 road games, then you got to come back home and, play Florida at home, Alabama at home, 2 teams that probably feeling pretty good about themselves after the weekend. So, so nice win for Tennessee. And we'll see what happens with Georgia. I think there's still ways to get there. It's just that was a big opportunity. So, all right, let's go to Ole Miss and Vanderbilt. Ole Miss 69, Vanderbilt 56. I would say for this game, like probably about what we expected, right? I mean, I don't think we really went into it thinking this was going to be a masterpiece by any means in terms of just all that. Like, I think we expected this to be a bit of a grind probably for Ole Miss. I didn't think they'd put up 103 again like they did against Florida. But again, I mean, it's just, I think Vanderbilt, it's just the limitations of, it's just, you just don't feel like they don't pack enough of a punch here to be able to win a game like this, especially when you're not hitting shots from outside, right? They went 4 of 18 from 3. Ole Miss hit 10 threes, 2. And we said that's kind of, one of those things for Ole Miss this season that's just been so different is they've been able to knock down threes consistently. And so, Murrell, 24 points here. Allen Flanagan had a double-double, 16 points, or excuse me, not double-double. We had 16 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. Sorry, I looked at the wrong column. Had a couple blocks. So once again, Allen Flanagan just contributing everywhere. And yeah, I mean, man, this is, this was kind of one that, again, I didn't think would be that pretty, but Ole Miss finds a way to win another one. And for Vanderbilt, I think it's just kind of the same thing where it's, I think to win a lot of games, you're going to need Lawrence and Mannion probably combining for more than 25 points, and that's just kind of the nature of where things are, even though we've talked about Jason Rivera-Torres. Yes, he stepped up and played well, but it's a challenge for them right now. Again, just going beyond a couple guys, you need more of that to especially win games like this on the road in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's especially tough to win on the road in the SEC when your 2 3-point shooting leaders combined for 0 threes. It's just brutal between Tassos and Evan Taylor. Just they did not get the shooting performance they needed here. Chris Beard said that this was the Rebels' best defensive performance of the season. I'm pretty sure this was Vanderbilt's second lowest total all year. So it was, one of the first times that Ole Miss really played team defense for a full 40 minutes. Beard said that was his biggest takeaway of this game was just how well the defense played together. My biggest takeaway was the guard rebounding for Ole Miss. Ole Miss, that's, we've been harping on the rebounding almost every game now. That's just kind of rinse and repeat here for Ole Miss. But Juju Murray, Matt Murrell, and Allen Flanagan combining for 16 defensive rebounds. I mean, Vanderbilt isn't the best rebounding team, but to have a guard defensive rebound, then it starts that quick break that Ole Miss likes to run and get to spot up shooters. Matt Murrell, 9 of 18 from 3 in the past 2 games. geez. I mean, I don't know how much you can take away from this game. It was a gritty, tough defensive performance from Ole Miss, and they got enough from their guys. You didn't really even need Jamin Brakefield to do that much, and he's been their go-to guy the past few games. So, yeah, I mean, nice momentum at home for Ole Miss. It's going to be tough to beat them at the Tad Pad, and they go 2 straight road games this week. So, both teams, both Ole Miss and Vandy, have a little bit of a tough schedule here coming up next week. So, be interesting to see how Vandy bounces back. But what did you see here in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, again, just kind of, I think Ole Miss is kind of what we think they are at this point. Like, we see all the different guys that are contributing, and right, it's even if you don't need a Jamarian Sharp to score, you just need him to rebound and block shots, and that's what he does. So, yeah, and so it's just, I think that's where we are right now with Ole Miss, and like you said, Vandy's got one of the tougher schedules of anybody coming up. I mean, truly, it's brutal. they got Auburn at home. They're at Mississippi State. They're home against Tennessee. They're at Auburn. Home against Missouri, which, is winnable based on how Missouri's playing. Then you got Kentucky. You go to South Carolina. Home against A&M. At Tennessee. Ooh, yeah.
Well, you can make the argument they have the most brutal stretch coming up.
Yeah, I think so, definitely, with the way it sets up now. So, I mean, again, I think one win in there is still going to be a challenge, but it seems like the most likely scenario right now. More than that, you'd be thrilled, probably.
Yeah,
just based on the competition. So, yeah, not ideal for the Commodores, who are 5-11 now on the season. So, all right, we'll get to this one, and hopefully they won't have any internet issues to mess this part up, because this is the one that Max has been waiting for. So, again, I apologize. Max knows my frustration with this. It's been an hour-long ordeal this morning with the internet. But this next one, Texas A&M 97, Kentucky 92. This one goes to overtime. Depending on who you ask, they should not have gotten there. We'll let Max expand his thoughts on that. But, I mean, look, Max, what can we say? We give you the floor here. Chris and I, we picked Kentucky. You went with Texas A&M. I think one thing we did all agree on was that this felt like the trap for Kentucky going in, playing on Texas A&M, lost 2 games in a row. And, yeah, like this was what a wild game, right? And I don't even know where you start because of how wild this game was. But, man, a huge win for A&M. There's no other way to put it. Wade Taylor, what do you say, right? Like Wade Taylor stepping up. But it was the man who we kept saying to this point, it's like, hey, they got to have Tyrece Radford in the long term if they're going to be a team that can win these kind of games and be able to, push for a top-tier spot in the SEC. They've got to have Tyrece Radford. And these two guys combined to score 59 points in this one. They combined for 9 of their 11 assists. They rebounded well. Radford had 9 rebounds in this game. So these two just kind of took over. And in all honesty, like if you're going to win games like this and you feel like you got a chance to be successful going forward, like that's what you want to see. You want to see these two guys taking over the way they did. And so tough spot for Kentucky, but give A&M credit. They stepped up and won a game that almost took as long as a football game. It's 2.5 hours for this one. So your thoughts, Max, as the lone right person on this game.
I want apologies from all of you. I was ready to get shredded on this reaction video. Shredded. I was like, oh, God, I'm going to have all Big Blue Nation just crushing me. But, hey, what a game overall. Just what a game. I'll tell you what. I put my heart and soul into this game. When this thing ended, I felt like I played in this game. I was beat up. I was fatigued. I was on my hands and knees on my living room, just gasping for air. This game was amazing. Even it doesn't matter what side you were rooting for. This was the first game I picked against Kentucky all year, and I was, man, was I looking back on it before the game, and I was like, oh God, this one's gonna come back to kill me. But hey, you never know in this league. Diving into the game, I did not know Solo Washington was gonna play. He was huge for Texas A&M in this game. And I'd said, this might be a game where, Kentucky is going to miss Adu Thiero, and, not only do you not get Adu Thiero, but Texas A&M gets Solo Washington back. So it's like, oh, geez, that's a major piece in this game that we, kind of didn't know what was going on there coming into it. Buzz Williams said after the game that Solo was the best player for Texas A&M. Said he was our best defender the entire game. So that just, that goes lengths to show his impact on the game. Coach Cal said that down the stretch there, they took about 4 or 5 freshman type of shots. Like, why did you shoot that type of shots where, there just wasn't much ball movement. It was just, one ball screen, and you shoot. So he wasn't really happy with his execution, from a coaching standpoint down the stretch. But it's a learning experience. You got a young team and overtime game on the road against a desperate team. It's going to be tough to execute perfectly down the stretch. I thought Ugonna Onyenso was incredible. I thought he was incredible. What was it? 10 rebounds, season high in minutes, season high in points, season high in rebounds. The guy just had an incredible performance with Bradshaw getting into foul trouble. And then Tre Mitchell with a career high in offensive rebounds. 8 offensive rebounds, a career high. His previous high was only 5. He had it back pre-COVID. He hasn't had that many offensive rebounds in years. So Kentucky, they battled. I'm not really taking much negative away from this game for Kentucky. I think you have to credit Texas A&M for an amazing performance. The only thing that I am worried about here, though, is this is now 3 straight games where the opposing guard tandem that Kentucky is playing has just absolutely gone off. And that's concerning. The guard defense just has not been there. If there's any knock on this team, it's definitely their defense. Because now we've seen 3 straight SEC games and we've seen 3 straight guard duos kind of get whatever they want. But man, just what a game. I had one quick thing here that was just bothering the heck out of me, Blake, was I saw so many Kentucky fans saying, if only we had those 2 points, from the goaltending, if only we had those 2 points. Guys, those foul calls down the stretch were making me pull my hair out, and I don't have much. Oh my gosh, I was flipping out. But geez, I think this was game of the year so far for the conference. I can't get over it. I've already watched it back once. I thought it was incredible. What are your takeaways? Because I was a little bit biased, being the only one picking A&M, but I just thought it was an incredible game.
No, it was a great game. Like we said, I think going in, that was the thought, was that this was going to be a good game. That's the thing. It just, even as bad as A&M had played, you just knew that they were not going to play as poorly here. It could have been anyone coming in there, in terms of, I just think you were going to get the bounce back game from Texas A&M. And that's where, again, if you're an A&M fan, you got to feel better, because your 2 best players, I still think that the 2 that probably have the tools to get them the furthest are the ones that stepped up and made the plays here to put them in that position. And so, yeah, but again, even on the Kentucky side, right? It's Kentucky lost the game here, but do I come out of this that concerned with Kentucky outside of a couple of the things you mentioned? I don't think those are necessarily concerns yet. They are trends that, you look at defensively and such. And so, but again, I still look at a Kentucky team that hits 15 threes. It's just most nights you're thinking, hey, Kentucky's hitting 15 threes. They're beating anybody. But it was not the case here. A&M hits 12, which, again, we should have known, right? That A&M, as poorly as they'd shot the ball, the number was going to wind up evening out, and they were going to hit more shots than you would think. And they hit 12 here, which, again, remember we had brought up the stat, they had shot 3 of 24, 5 of 28, and 3 of 19 in the previous 3 games. So you just knew that somehow this thing was going to go back to where they just hit more shots. And so that gave them the ability to, keep this game where it was. I did think at that point where Kentucky took that 7-point lead midway through the second, I'm like, this is it for A&M. They either have to respond, or this thing, they're about to be 0-3, and Kentucky might run away with this. But again, give credit to the same guys who just stepped up and made plays. And so, yeah, again, I know Kentucky fans are probably frustrated. And anytime you give up, I think if you're Cal, anytime you give up 25 offensive rebounds, you're not going to be thrilled. But still, right? I mean, I still don't change my opinion that much on Kentucky, just because I think, to me, we said it going in, this was way more about Texas A&M and how they could play. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that you've got to, try to figure out moving forward and see what happens. So, I feel better about both teams maybe coming out of it, although Kentucky fans may not be thrilled with the loss. But
I don't think any team in the country could have gone into that arena yesterday and played as well as Kentucky did. I mean, some of those the shot making ability of Kentucky is just, I don't think there's a better shot even Alabama, like they're right up there. Those two are just, oh my gosh, down the stretch when you need a basket, it's almost guaranteed you're getting at least a good shot at the rim. Rob Dillingham with what, 3 straight threes? Oh, yeah. I thought that was it. I thought it was it. But yeah, I mean, look at the schedule too coming up here for Kentucky, Blake. I mean, you got 2 straight home games against Mississippi State and Georgia. Then you have 2 road games, but it's South Carolina and Arkansas. Like, I think this is going to be helpful in the long run for Kentucky. A little bit of a learning experience here on the road against one of the most physical teams. I still really like Kentucky. I'm not down on them at all.
Yeah. No, I'm not either. I think it's good to get kind of battle tested in 2 straight road games to start SEC play. And so they did. One of them they won, one of them they didn't. But, still, I think in the end, I think it will be beneficial to play these kind of games because
I agree.
And Kentucky's used to this too. Like anytime they go on the road, they're the biggest game for that team. Like that's just, that's been the case over the years. And so big spot for A&M. They delivered and pick up the victory, a much needed one for the Aggies. All right. South Carolina 71, Missouri 69. Another overtime game here. It was the Gamecocks finding a way to pick up the victory. Missouri fans, I said it. This was the last stand for me. If I was going to pick against you, I was going to try the reverse mojo. We tried to bring it back. It didn't work. South Carolina gets the win, and now I may just have to lean into my South Carolina making the NCAA tournament pick here because the Gamecocks are 14-2. This was one, again, that it felt like was kind of pivotal for them because if you lose it, that's where you talk about like you need a resume to get into the tournament. You need a resume to get, start getting wins. And this one's not going to one that's going to boost them. But we always say, especially now, it's like you don't want to lose games that are going to hurt you. And this would have hurt South Carolina had they have lost this game. But they find a way to get it done. And I mean, I think this is kind of the continued theme for me with South Carolina. They didn't shoot the ball well here, but again, that's not surprising on the road. We just kind of see, we saw the Alabama game, those kind of things. They turned it over a bit, but they won the rebounding battle, which we thought they'd have a great chance to do against this Missouri team. The offensive rebounds, the extra opportunities, that helped. But I think it just goes back to the same thing. It's like Meechie Johnson, if we'd have, if you had to pick one guy going this game, said who's going to lead him in scoring, we'd probably all pick Meechie Johnson. But the fact is, this is kind of proving the point that they just have other guys. And, Miles Studi has had some games recently. He had the one game against Alabama, right, where he didn't score.
Right.
So it's like, okay, he had an off night. That really hurt. But like in this game, he scores 10 points. He hits a couple threes. That kind of counters the fact that Meechie Johnson only took, he didn't take that many shots either, right? 2 of 6. I had 5 turnovers. So scoring-wise, didn't do the most. But BJ Mack can step up. Talon Cooper can step up. Jacoby Wright comes off the bench with 11. So it's just, I think you're seeing that's why I think it's easy to like the South Carolina team is they just have options. And when one guy doesn't have his best game, we've seen other guys step up. Doesn't always work out. You can play in Alabama and get run out of the gym, but this was not going to be the same scenario against a Missouri team that just lacks the offensive punch, which we said all season. They just don't have it like they did last year. And once again, I'll say the same thing. It's, sometimes bounces just don't go your way. Missouri had the bounces go their way, and they made, put themselves in that opportunity position last year in all those close games, and they found a way to win all those close games, essentially. This year, it's just, it's the opposite in some of these scenarios, right? It's the Jackson State game, or it's this game. They've won, I guess really in a couple close games, I guess you could say, at Minnesota, at Pitt, but yeah, man, it's a challenge this year for the Tigers and a big win for the Gamecocks on the road.
Man, yeah, this is on one side you have absolutely massive win, and on the other side, you just have absolute heartbreak. It's the two sides of college basketball here. Killer for Missouri to force 16 turnovers, hold South Carolina under 30% from three, and you don't come away with the win. Just this, I feel like this one's really going to hurt. They've been in the post-game press conferences, they've been having, a great attitude, a good positive attitude, especially Noah Carter, after the Georgia game, after the Kentucky game. But man, this one's going to hurt. And how can it not? You're up by 5 with 2:20 left with Michi Johnson not on the floor. And man, you got to tip your cap to Talon Cooper, like you said. But Lamont Paris was asked, obviously Michi Johnson wasn't having his best game, but, you didn't have him on the floor at all there down the stretch. And Lamont Paris said, yeah, we needed our most connected defensive group on the floor. That's what he was going for. And it worked. I mean, did Mizzou miss some shots that I thought they should have made? Yeah. But I mean, hey, that's college basketball. The ball's not even always going to, fall, and you got to find other ways to win. That's what the South Carolina did. They found other ways to win. I think in a bright spot for Missouri, I thought Jesus Carolero Martin played his best game of the year. Really filled the stat sheet up, and Dennis Gates said that after the game, said he played really well. But I mean, geez, this was one you needed. And it's gonna sting. Now you got to go to Alabama. It's a tough one. It's a tough one for South Carolina, though. You're now you got a home game at Georgia, and then an away game at Arkansas, and you just snuck one out playing nowhere near your best basketball, nowhere near it. So you got to be feeling good if you're Lamont Paris, with that result and with the next few games you got coming up. There's a lot of opportunity here. So, man, really, really stings for Missouri, and a lot of optimism here for South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to add on this one. I mean, I just think this was another example to me of South Carolina just being able to find a way to win a game. They did against Mississippi State. They do it on the road here against Missouri, and still heading in the right direction. If you're the Gamecocks, get Georgia at home on Tuesday, at Arkansas. So this week looks a little bit better, all things considered. Then you get the big game against Kentucky at home, then get another game with Missouri. So, and then like we said, for Missouri, the problem is the schedule. Yeah, and Missouri's got to go to Alabama on Tuesday, Florida, at A&M, at South Carolina. Like, we talk about Vanderbilt in danger of what their record could be. Like, Missouri's is also not trending in the right direction. So
the alarm is ringing.
Yeah, it's not ideal. So, but all right. This next one, I don't have a lot to say about this one either, because this has just become the trend at this point.
Jeez.
So, Florida 90, Arkansas 68. I mean, another example, right, of just what we've been saying with Arkansas. I don't know how it got here. I know there are a lot of strong opinions on how it did get here for them. But at this point, it's clear that whatever issues there are not going to be fixed perhaps anytime soon. And so I don't know, man. I mean, it's just, and I've seen a lot of, again, differing opinions, and we could probably spend so much time on this, but thanks to the lack of power of my internet, we won't spend a lot of time on it. But I mean, I still am telling you, I don't think this is a talent problem. I've seen some people say that that's the problem, is the talent. I just don't see it. I don't think that's it. I'm just being honest. Like, I don't think it's talent, and we can try to use that, I guess, as an excuse, but I just don't think that's the problem here. It's clearly deeper than that. And again, I don't know how it got here, but it did. And usually Muss over the years has figured out the way to push the right buttons. There's still, I guess, theoretically time to do that, but I just don't think this year you can bank on that like you have in previous years, because this is completely different than what we've seen. They're not just losing, they're losing in ways that just really are nothing like what we've seen from Arkansas, a team that has just, been gritty and all those things over the past several years. Like, they've stepped up to the challenge, like, every single time, seemingly, when they get in those huge games where it feels like their back's against the wall and all that. We've just seen the opposite this year, where that's just not happened. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess what else do we say here, Max? I mean, they got just completely obliterated on the boards. Florida just, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to add. So,
I mean, well, real quick, just to add on to your comment about the boards. I mean, I mentioned it in the preview, and I'll mention it again. Bruce Pearl came right out and said we didn't even have to box them out. We just had to put one body on them, and they were boxed out. There was no resistance on the glass. I mean, you don't need us for the analysis. The coaches are coming right out and saying it. Listen to Muss right after this game. He goes, and I quote, "This group does not have the characteristics of teams we've had in the past." That's it right there. You guys, well, Muss always turns it around. This team's different. He's coming out and saying this team is different. There's no grit. There's no toughness. There's no that Razorback Musselman identity. It's not there. So you're looking for answers moving forward. I don't have them. I don't even know who's playing next game. I don't even know who's playing. I didn't even know who was playing in this game. You start the game with starters. Who knows who's playing the rest of the game? They're getting yanked 5 minutes in. So I don't know. I have no clue. I'm kind of lost on Arkansas right now. But if we want to talk about Florida and credit them with what they did, huge confidence boost for Riley Kugel. Huge confidence boost. It's exactly what he needed after last game. And Todd Golden came out and said that. He said Riley was phenomenal, especially on ball defending. And then I got to mention him. My Mr. Cool, Calm, Collected, Mr. Triple C, Zion Pullen. There's no one more cool, calm, and collected than that man right there. He 8 assists, 1 turnover. I mean, come on. He just is never rushed, never out of his comfort zone. So I just think that's, if you get Kugel playing now with confidence, man, that you could really start seeing this Florida offense, kind of take off. I thought Alex Condon off the bench was fantastic. I mean, he's got the highest defensive rebound rate in the SEC through 3 games. You're bringing that off the bench. So that's a great development moving forward as you're going to start playing some of these more physical teams at Tennessee on Tuesday. But I thought the second half energy and defense was great. That's what Florida's really been struggling with coming out in the second half and maintaining that level of play. So, yeah, I mean, I think we finally saw with Florida. I know Arkansas is a mess right now, but we saw, some positive things moving forward, some momentum going into Tennessee on Tuesday. That's going to be a tough one. But, yeah, I'm not going to comment much more on Arkansas because I don't even know.
Yeah. Nice bounce back for Florida. Again, we knew
they needed it.
Yeah, they did need it. So this was a nice one, I think, to, again, put them in a position knowing that they still have got to now go back on the road again for 2 more games. So, yeah, a nice one for the Gators to pick up a win here and in impressive fashion over the Hogs. All right, Auburn 93, LSU 78. This one got a little closer. Probably Bruce Pearl wanted because there's also something in the thread. Chris went to eat dinner and it's like I left. Auburn was up 28, and all of a sudden he looks up and whatever it was at that point, right? So, yeah, so pretty wild sequence where this thing was. So it was Auburn was up 28 with 11:37 left. Then you looked up and it was, what did it get down to, Max? Get down to 9, I think. Got down to 9 with 5.5 to go. So, yeah, a quick swing there where it went from, what was the run? Was it 20?
It was like a 21-2, I think.
Yeah, 21-2 run for
with no timeout.
Yeah, so it just kept going and going and going. That thing, yeah, it was pretty wild. So, yeah, but I guess that's kind of where we are on that is just, kind of seeing with Auburn, they do it again, another double-digit win. And, just kind of a situation now where you look at, I said it, man, they just got so many guys, right? I mean, I made the comment not long ago about deepest team in the SEC. Like they made the deepest team in the country. Like at this point, I think they are. Like I just don't think there's a lot of doubt about it at this point. I mean, you see all the guys they're able to bring in, and how many different contributions they get in different areas from so many different guys. Like you can look down the stat sheet, right? It's like even a rebound, it's an assist. Here's one for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 different guys had an assist in this game, right? And so it's like even stuff as small as that. Yep. I think they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had 8 guys had a steal in this game. So it's just you're getting a complete effort from this Auburn team. And I know, the run aside there, just an unbelievable team right now in every sense of the word, like team. Like they are just doing so many things well as a unit. And, give LSU credit for battling back. And, they could have laid down, of course, after getting down like that because Auburn was just dominating them. But LSU came back, made a run, got a couple different guys stepping up, maybe a little momentum for guys that a little confidence for some guys that have struggled a little bit. But still, man, it's all about Auburn. And here they are again, doing it with another dominant performance.
I love this team. I love this Auburn team. I'm for all the futures that I placed. I love placing just like $5 on a future just so I have a bunch of teams to root for. I am kicking myself for not taking Auburn back in like June, July, because this team's incredible. Bruce Pearl comes out in the post game and says, "I think there's more than 16 teams better than us. I think we're ranked too high." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, you guys are like, are you kidding me?" So just the fact that Bruce Pearl thinks they have so much more left in the tank I'm like, oh my gosh, how much better can you get? 16 steals for Auburn. That's the most they've had since pre-COVID. This is like 4 years now. This is the most steals they've had in SEC play. Baker-Mazara has his career high in steals, 6 steals. Previous career high was 3, doubles it up. He's playing incredible. And then how about Denver Jones and his defense? It's not getting enough credit. He holds Jalen Cook to 0 assists and 5 turnovers. Look at what he did to Wade Taylor the previous game. So Denver Jones, he's maybe not getting enough shots, but geez, his on-ball defense has been incredible. And I'm glad you wrote down the bench, because I have right here in my notes, I have best bench in the nation. I mean, you bring in Dylan Cardwell off the bench, and he's one of the best defensive bigs in the conference off the bench. I mean, I know it's at Neville, so they got the whole, I mean, that atmosphere was just insane. They get everyone behind them, and it just, the momentum just starts snowballing, against these other teams. But I mean, when you're talking about teams that can win multiple ways and, can win when the shots aren't falling, can win when the other teams, goes on a run, 21-2 run, stuff like this. Like, I mean, look at the next 2 games for Auburn. They're at Vandy and then they get Ole Miss at home. It's like, when is this team going to lose? Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good about Auburn. Looking from LSU, I mean, geez, you ran into a buzzsaw. I don't know how many teams could have gone into Neville and come out of there with a win. They've got a little bit of a favorable schedule coming up here for LSU in terms of they get 2 straight home games. So, could build on that. But I think the story here is just how dominant Auburn is. You've won every game by double digits. I mean, geez.
Well, and then there were 2. The Auburn Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'll let that clap.
I tip my cap to you, Blake.
Alabama 82, Mississippi State 74. As I said in the group chat, I love it when a plan comes together, because we guaranteed the Alabama win. And whenever you two schlubs over there picked Mississippi State, I said, here we go. I said, we're about to do this right now. We're about to guarantee the Alabama victory. And we did, to continue my point that I think Alabama can win the SEC this year. In all seriousness, I mean, I told you I was as intrigued for this game as I was, all the others, just based on, it really was. It was seeing how this game would play out from a stylistic standpoint, seeing how Alabama would play on the road in a tough environment here, because again, we mentioned it, Chris talked about, didn't play well at Vanderbilt. Of course, I listed all the reasons why I thought that was. But, this was kind of that game where I think you could really learn a lot more, because in all honesty, this is the first game away from home this year that Alabama has really they've found a way to put it together down the stretch to win the game. Because we talked about it, like Purdue, Creighton, Arizona. And so, yeah, this was, I just don't think you can discount how huge of a win this was for Alabama based on that. Because the next road game is going to be at Tennessee next week. And so, but still, I mean, I keep going back to it. It's just like, man, Mark Sears, it just felt like, but it wasn't just Mark Sears. Rylan Griffin made some big plays. He had 17 in this game. Wrightsell scores 19 in this one. And so you just kind of look at it from that standpoint. I keep saying it. It's like, could I watch this game and felt like Alabama played their absolute best from start to finish? probably there are a couple of points in there where maybe you don't say that didn't start well. Mississippi State got off to a good start and all that. But at a certain point, like I said, I just think Alabama's just going to find ways to outscore teams, even if they're not perfect in every single area. Although offensively, you could look here and say, aside from the turnovers, 22 of 26 from the line, 10 of 28 from 3, 15 of 30 from 2. So very efficient in every area. And again, that's just, I think, their scoring ability. It's hard for teams to keep up that same kind of scoring. Now, obviously, did they get a little help here? Yes, because Mississippi State could not buy a free throw. They could have spent all the NIL money in the world, but they were not going to be able to buy a free throw on this night because they went 15 to 27. But I think the bigger issue, Max, was that it felt like, I know this isn't the case, but it felt like most of those 12 misses came like in the final 4 minutes. Because I don't know that it felt like they had a free throw. So yeah, just the wrong time to start, missing free throws and key moments. That's kind of the story here for Mississippi State because they had their opportunities. But yeah, man, this is a huge win for Alabama. And once again, here they are, the defending champions. They're 3-0 to start league play.
Yeah, I had a nightmare last night, actually, that Mississippi State was down by 2 and they missed 4 straight free throws. No, that happened. That happened. Oh, geez. Yeah, just nightmare for Mississippi State there. But you got to credit Alabama. I thought Grant Nelson played his best defensive game of the season. Did Tolu Smith miss a few bunnies that he normally makes? Maybe, but also Grant Nelson's length really was bothering him. He had multiple blocks. I thought Nelson just really held his own, especially with Pringle just racking up fouls. Speaking of fouls, Cam Matthews, foul trouble again. This has been a recurring theme here for Mississippi State. And while were they questionable, were they not questionable? It was a physical game. Fouls are going to get called. And Chris Jan said in the post game, he said, me and Cam have been working on this a lot. We've talked a lot about the fouls, and it's just still hinders them in big games. So I'd like to see Matthews. I love his defense. I love his aggressiveness, but your team needs you on the floor in these games, So that was a big storyline. But I'm glad you mentioned him. Latrell Wrightsell. Unreal. I thought he was like the main reason why Alabama won this game. He's made 17 threes in the past 5 games off the bench, shooting 45% on the season. He doesn't quite have the shot fake like Sir'Jabari Rice, but last year's Texas team could bring a 45% three-point shooter in off the bench. And it's just like, geez, it's so valuable. So yeah, Wrightsell is just really coming on strong. I thought he played his best game. Wrightsell actually said after the game, he said all that early season adversity, those 3 tough games, he said that really helped us a lot in this game. Just knowing that we've been there and comfortable in that situation. Thought the rebounding effort for Alabama was great. But man, if you're looking at that from a Mississippi State perspective, you feel sick to your stomach because of those free throws where you have a chance to take down one of the SEC's top teams. The hump was, the atmosphere was great, but I feel like this is kind of a recurring theme here with some of these close games. I like both teams moving forward. Alabama, like you've been all over it, Blake. I got to give you credit. You've been all over this team. They're going to outscore teams. I mean, I thought they missed some shots. I thought they missed some bunnies around the rim here. So I feel great about Alabama, but on the flip side, if you look at it from Mississippi State, I mean, you make a few free throws, you win this game. So, I mean, I think these are 2 good teams going forward. I'm not worried about Mississippi State at all, and just a great win for Alabama moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this was a huge one because we just saw Tennessee go in there and lose, and so this was a big opportunity for the Crimson Tide. They take advantage, and
big one on Saturday, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, they need to beat Missouri on Tuesday, and like we said, Auburn goes to Vanderbilt. I'm getting to the Iron Bowl of basketball. I'm going beyond the Alabama-Tennessee game. I'm just giving those fans a chance to look at that one. That is January 24th, so not that far away. But if you want to, try to figure out if these 2 teams will be undefeated to get there, Auburn goes to Vanderbilt, hosts Ole Miss, which I think is a better setup than Alabama's going to have because they host Missouri and then go to Tennessee. which will be a tough one there to beat the Vols. But yeah, so I mean, again, I think Alabama's offensive skill is just going to show up in some of these games, and they're just more polished offensively than a lot of teams are in the SEC. And so that may wind up being the difference, but they are 3-0 for now. And so are the Auburn Tigers, the lone unbeatens remaining. And we'll see what happens from here, Max. It's going to be interesting just based on how this Saturday slate unfolded, and, start to see teams going beyond even the top teams, start to figure out if some of these teams can, build resumes, like we said, a South Carolina, an Ole Miss, teams like that. Can they start to kind of build those NCAA tournament resumes and really put themselves in position? And can A&M, kind of start to fight their way back now after the Kentucky game? Can Mississippi State, who's 1-2 now, they got the Tennessee win, can they kind of keep building things in the right direction? Same with Florida, right? So it's very interesting setup here.
Very interesting, and I just want to say I cannot wait until next Saturday again, because I don't know about you guys, but I love waking up and knowing I'm just about to watch like 10 straight hours of SEC basketball. I mean, you could tell me Margot Robbie is outside waiting to take you on a date, and I'm like, nope. There is SEC basketball on. It's Saturday. I'm putting my heart and soul into this game. We're in the thick of it, and I'm fired up. I love it.
Or it may be Chris Lee waiting outside to take you, because remember, him and Auburn, I mean, at this point, it's like, no. We have fun with that. I don't remember if that was the mailbag or one of the shows we did a couple days ago, but
who knows?
Yeah. Anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun, and as always, we appreciate you guys watching here on Southeastern 14. And remember, any podcast app you use, you can also find us there if you want to listen on podcasts. And be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. That always helps us. Like I said, I apologize. My internet went a little bit in and out throughout this. I was kind of monitoring it. It probably did. But hey, we are dedicated. And if we have to be choppy to give you the show, we're going to do it. So, again, we appreciate you guys watching as always. And we'll talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 14.